Om Tyageshwaram Ramakrishnam Saradham Matrirupinim Vivekanandamacharyam Natva Vakshama Shuddhi Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Bhaishajena Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. In our last class we discussed how God's grace comes into our life. Ishvara Pranidhana, that is, can be translated as prayerful meditation on God. We repeat the name of the Lord, meditate on God with a prayerful attitude. And that is going to help us advance in spiritual life. That was the idea. But how does God's grace come into our life? That's what he told. Tataha pratyak chetana adhigamo api antaraya bhavascha. That was the sutra. As a result of this Ishvara Pranidhana, prayerful meditation on God, we will have adhigama, that is attainment of pratyak chetana, of our own real nature. This word pratyak has many meanings. Pratyak chetana here means the inner consciousness, which is our own real nature. We will have attainment, we will have realization of our own real nature. And also antaraya abhava. There will be absence or removal of the antarayas or the obstacles. This is going to be the twofold way in which God's grace is going to help us in our spiritual life. Now, this is very significant since we are praying to God, and in yogic sense we are praying to Ishvara and meditating on Ishvara, and the result is we know our own real nature. Just as Ishvara is pure, free from bondage and birth and tribes, so am I. Buddhehe pratisamvedi purusha. This being who is the eliminator of the modifications of the intellect. So that is the result of Ishvara Pranidhana. This is similar to what is accepted in Vedanta and Bhakti. We saw the Bhagavad Gita words. Teshameva anukampartham. Out of compassion, God says, out of compassion I will destroy the darkness of ignorance of the hearts of my devotees. This is how God's grace comes into our life. It reveals to us our own real nature by destroying the ignorance that we have about ourselves. And according to Vedanta, also about the world. And at a lower level, if we can say, even when we pray to God or we don't know what to do in a worldly sense, in worldly problems if we have, and if we pray to God, God may not actually change the external world, but will give us some insights into how to deal with that problem. He will give us right understanding. So God's grace works at different levels. But at all levels, the method is same. By illumining our heart, by giving us proper understanding, God's grace comes into our life. So that's what was one way in which God's grace descends in our life. In the yogic and Vedantic sense, it will destroy the darkness of ignorance of our heart. And this is what we aim for. This is, so to say, a step. If you look at spiritual life as a journey, then this is the step. With our sadhana, whichever sadhana it is, what are we seeking? We are seeking God's grace. That grace will destroy the ignorance of our heart. That is how the spiritual life, the fulfillment will happen. Especially for bhaktas, those who believe in the existence of a personal God. the realization will come only through God's grace. So all our efforts are aimed at obtaining this grace of God, which will destroy the ignorance of our heart. So that was one way in which God's grace comes into our life. The other was removal of obstacles, antaraya abhava. And the next sutra, he listed 9 obstacles, so to say. These are distractions, and since they are distractions, they are called obstacles. These distract our mind from the path of yoga, so they are called obstacles. Those were 9, starting with vyadhis, dhyana, samshaya, like that. Now, one thing is, God's grace is supposed to remove these obstacles. But in order to receive grace of God, we have to make effort. Then only God's grace will come. In the presence of these obstacles, we may not be able to really engage in pranidhana at all. Even if we are able to engage, unless we have exhausted ourselves, the free will that God has given us, the strength that God has given us, the understanding, the intellect that God has given us, unless we use it to remove these obstacles at our level, God's grace will not come into play. And hence, we have to do all our efforts to tackle these obstacles, to remove these obstacles, knowing full well that finally it is God's grace alone which will remove these. But our efforts are required. Our efforts are required so that God's grace becomes operative in our life. It will become operative in our life only when we have exhausted ourselves. So that is why the Purushakara or our effort, personal effort comes into picture. And hence, Patanjali lists them. Unless we know what the obstacles are, we cannot tackle them. So sometimes it happens that we know we are not progressing in spiritual life the way we want. So that is a symptom, so to say. We are not able to progress. But what are the causes? We don't know. So Patanjali lists those causes. We can see whether our failure to advance in spiritual life is on account of any of these causes. And most of the time we will find that we are stuck in 1, 2 or more of these causes, of these obstacles, which are hindering our spiritual progress. So a lack of advancements in spiritual progress is a symptom, and these are the causes, antarayas, obstacles. And that's why Patanjali lists them, so that we can identify them and we can handle them. Third point is, yoga is a way of life. It is a full-time endeavor. It is not that we are yogis when we sit in meditation and at other times we are not yogis. That is not the case. Yoga is a full-time venture, full-time endeavor. It's a way of life. And these antarayas, they obstruct at all times. It is not that these antarayas will obstruct our meditation and japa only. They will obstruct our yogic way of life itself. They will obstruct our smriti sadhana. They will obstruct. So during the daytime, whatever yogic practices we are undertaking, when we are not engaged in pranidhana, smriti sadhana is what most of the people undertake. So even this smriti sadhana will be hindered by these obstacles, and that's why we need to tackle them. As I said last time, these can be clubbed or grouped in smaller groups. The last one, anavasthitatva, that is the last one, anavasthitatva. That is inability to retain a spiritual state, yogic state which has been achieved. That is for advanced spiritual seekers. Those who have achieved some spiritual state, some yogic state, they are unable to retain to it. And that is an obstacle. But that is not for most of the aspirants. That is only for advanced aspirants. So that can be left out for us for discussion. The first one is vyadhi. Vyadhi is dhyana, samuchaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, bhranti darshana, alabdhomikatva and anavastitatva. So first one is vyadi, that is disease. This can be clubbed with alasya. Alasya is laziness, or say heaviness of the body and mind. And vyadi, vyadi is disease, mental or psychological or physical, both. These two can be tackled, can be handled, can be overcome, like our efforts can be put by a regulated lifestyle. Many of the diseases and even the laziness, the heaviness of the body and mind, these are caused due to a wrong, unhealthy lifestyle. So these two can be tackled with a proper lifestyle. As Bhagavad Gita says, Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. This yoga, which will destroy the dukkha, this comes only to a person who is yukta ahara vihara, who is measured in his or her ahara, vihara, nidra, and when the wakefulness, everything is measured, everything is balanced, so to say. So that balanced lifestyle is necessary, mainly food, sleep, and exercise. These are the three areas which need to be taken care of, so to say. Regular physical exercise, proper diet, and proper sleep. And for that we need again a regular routine. To inculcate these things in our life, we need a regular routine. Unless we cannot have a long-term steadiness, so to say, in our spiritual practices. So a healthy, balanced lifestyle which takes care of physical exercise, proper diet, and proper sleep. This will take care of these two obstacles, namely vyadhi, that is diseases, and alasya, that is heaviness of the body and mind. It is not so easy because this change of lifestyle, it at times changes our social equations. We live in a family, in a community, and if we want to make any modifications in our lifestyle, it does change our social equation. So we have to be careful in that. But without these, we won't be able to be alert. We won't be able to be really up to it, basically, to practice yoga. But that is also you can call another obstacle. That when we try to regulate our lifestyle, change it, it has a tendency or it has a danger potential that it might disturb our social equations. We need to tackle that also. So these are the first two obstacles, namely vyadhi and alasya. The remedy is a balanced lifestyle which focuses on proper diet, exercise, and sleep. The second obstacle that we deal with is samshaya. Samshaya is doubt. When we touch upon both the aspects of the issue and we think that this could be like this or it could be like this also, confusion basically. That is samshaya. Doubt in English. Now, this has degrees. This doubt has degrees. See, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, he says, the doubt will remain till realization. So some doubt will linger, so to say, till realization as to whether God exists or not, whether what we believe in is the truth or not. That doubt, in some degree, in some measure, it will remain till realization. But that is part of the game. It is not harmful, it is not an obstacle in the sense that it does not hinder our practice. But doubt in a gross form, that's dangerous. That doesn't really allow us to undertake any serious spiritual practice at all. People have so many doubts whether God exists or not, whether the truth as is pronounced by scriptures is the fact, is really the truth, or whether I can undertake this journey, whether I have the capacity to take it. That kind of doubts are there. Some of these doubts are caused on account of our being casual about spiritual life. See, we try to read all kinds of books on spiritual life, and that kind of confuses the mind and creates this doubt. That is why we should read only authentic scriptures. So Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, these are the authentic scriptures, or the sayings of God-realized souls, who again are from authentic traditions. See, every Tom, Dick and Harry wants to write about spiritual life, about his or her experiences which are not rooted in tradition. No, that is where the problem comes. Once we move away from tradition, then we are giving rise to doubt. So we should stick to the spiritual tradition. Whichever spiritual tradition we believe in, it doesn't matter. But we should stick to spiritual traditions and follow the precepts. If we stick to spiritual traditions, then there will be less chance or scope for doubt. See, there are many spiritual traditions, and as Sri Ramakrishna says, every one of these is a path to the truth, no doubt about it. But as serious spiritual aspirants, while we respect all of these, while we accept all of these to be true, we, for ourselves, should have faith in one particular spiritual philosophy or tradition. It should be there. That is mandatory, so to say, for us to make any spiritual progress. That is why Shraddha comes in. Shraddha doesn't make us fanatical, but it gives us a grounding, and it gives us strength to pursue a particular spiritual path. A person who has Shraddha has no doubt about the nature of reality or the path that will lead to the realization of that reality, of the truth. He or she has no doubt. Now that is what we aim at. By destroying this doubt, Samshayatma vinashyati, Bhagavad Gita says. By destroying, we should destroy this doubt, otherwise this doubt will destroy us. The doubt has the capacity to destroy us. So to destroy doubt, faith is the only remedy to destroy this doubt. We believe in all authentic spiritual traditions, no doubt. But for me, this is the truth and this is the path. We should have that clear conviction and faith in one particular spiritual path, one particular philosophy we should have. It is necessary to advance in spiritual life. As I said, this doesn't contravene with Ramakrishna's teaching. He says, as many faiths, so many paths. But then he also says about Ishtanishta. So these two have to go together. The Catholicity has also a firmness in one's own Shraddha. These have to go together. And to have this Shraddha, we should read authentic books, listen to authentic teachers. And if we have doubts, we can clarify from other spiritual seekers. So that is how we can tackle this samshaya. Agnyasya shraddadhanasya samshayatma vinashyati. Nayam lokosti no puro na sukham samshayatmana. A person who is doubting, neither this world nor the other will come to him or her. So this doubt, confusion, unsettled spiritual convictions, so to say, there are no, okay, it's unsettled spiritual ideas which are yet to concretize. These, we have to come out of this state, and we should have a very clear conviction. That is, that is about this doubt. The other obstacle is Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana is wrong perception, wrong understanding. This is another obstacle in spiritual life. See, our gurus would have given us a mantra and a method how to practice spiritual life. We should not fiddle with it. We should not try to calibrate it to suit our needs. So we don't know. Our gurus know better. The tradition knows better. So we should strictly follow what has been received from the guru. This is Bhranti, that we can calibrate it, we can fiddle with it and advance in spiritual life fast. That is not the way. That is Bhranti Darshana. These wrong ideas, wrong perceptions, or certain experiences, in case one has, to misunderstand them to be spiritual experiences. That's another great obstacle. Like many times people come saying we had this vision, that vision, realization and all that. So we should be very circumspect, so to say. In the initial stages of spiritual life, we should be very circumspect. We should continuously evaluate ourselves, especially if we feel that we are making any progress, we have to be all the more circumspect. We should seek help and see whether whatever advancement we think we are making is making us more pure. Purity is the first test of spiritual growth. Whether it is making us more pure, whether it is making us strong. So, Bhranti Darshana is this, taking what is not an actual spiritual growth to be a spiritual growth, to be a sign of spiritual growth, or to fiddle with the teachings of the Guru and scriptures, to implement them in our own way in our life, in spiritual life, is quite dangerous. We can't do that. We have to follow what our Guru has told. That is the only way. We can't fiddle with those teachings. So, Bhranti Darshana is this idea is that I know better, I can fiddle with the teachings of the scriptures and gurus and advance more speedily in spiritual life. So these kind of ideas we should not have. So these are a few of these we have discussed. We have discussed Vyadhi, Alasya, we have discussed Samshaya, we have discussed Bhranti Darshana. There is one more called Alabdha Bhumikatva. Alabdha Bhumikatva is inability to attain any spiritual progress. We are struggling, and because of the obstacles and our Purva Samskaras, we are not able to make any proper progress. That's all right, but that's how the spiritual life is. There is no need to be despondent on account of that. This alabdhumikatva, inability to advance in spiritual life, inability to attain to a certain stage, that leads to dejection. The next sutra will talk of that. So we shouldn't let dejection overtake us because we are not making spiritual progress. Many times, Holy Mother says, the spiritual growth happens unconsciously. We may not be even aware of it. That's what Holy Mother said. Somebody picks you up when you are sleeping and takes you some kilometers away. You are not aware. So many times spiritual growth happens unconsciously. We are not aware of it. So we need not be dejected because we don't get any signs of spiritual progress. The dejection arising out of not attaining any spiritual level is another obstacle. And there are 2-3 others. They are kind of related. One is Dhyana, Pramada, and Avirati. Dhyana is listlessness. Pramada is inadvertence, and Avirati is lack of detachment. We shall talk about it in the next class. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.